Hi guys! Today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite recipes. It's a super simple recipe and it's made in the crock pot and it's delicious. But first, before we do that, I want to share with you a story of why it's kind of strange that I like this recipe. So when I was a teenage girl, my mom and I went to an activity at our church for teenage girls and their moms. And at this activity, they served clam chowder. I am probably one of the pickiest eaters I know. I do have a couple of siblings who are pickier than I am, but I'm kind of a picky eater. Well, this clam chowder was not my cup of tea, but I ate it because I was in public and I'm polite and I'm kind of shy and I didn't want to be rude. But I let it be known to my mom quietly on the sidelines that I was not a fan of this clam chowder. Fast forward to a few weeks later, my mom's cooking something in the crock pot and I kept asking her, "What is it?" She said, "Oh, it's potato soup." I was so excited because I love potatoes and I love soup, and how can you go wrong with potato soup? Well, come to find out, I sit down at the table and there is something strangely familiar about those slimy little clumps in my potato soup. And I just couldn't do it. So I marched into my mom and I said, "You made clam chowder." And she swore up and down that it was potato soup. And I ate it because I was hungry, but I didn't enjoy it. And from that time on, I never trusted potato soup again. Well, just a few years ago, my mom made more potato soup. And I was a little bit nervous because I'm a big consistency person with a texture person with my food. It has to have a good texture. If it has a weird texture, I can't eat it. And so my mom swore that this was just potato soup this time. So I reluctantly tried it. And it was just potatoes. I was so excited. So I ate it and I had to have the recipe. And I don't make it all the time, but I do love it. I love it in the winter especially. And so now I have introduced my kids to it and they love it as well. So without further ado, here is the recipe for ham and potato soup in the crock pot. The ingredients you're going to need are 1 32-ounce container of chicken broth, 1 family-size can of cream of chicken soup, 2 packages of hash browns, 1 package of cream cheese, and 1 package of cubed ham. The first thing you're going to do is dump both bags of hash browns into your crock pot. It looks kind of full right now, but as it cooks, it will cook down and it won't be quite so full. Next, you will pour in the family-sized can of cream of chicken soup. Next, you will pour in the entire container of chicken broth. Next, you're going to stir it up. I'm not completely done with this step yet, but it's a little bit hard at first because the hash browns are frozen. But if you get it stirred the best you can initially and then go back after it's been cooking for a few minutes and softened a little bit, it's a lot easier. Now that I've got it stirred the best that I can, I put the lid on it and I turned the crock pot onto low, and I'm going to let it cook for probably about an hour before I come back and stir it better. It's been cooking for about an hour, hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and lift the lid and give it a little stir. It's pretty soupy right now. The hash browns are still kind of frozen, but they're starting to break down a little bit. Now that it's been stirred pretty well, I'm going to go ahead and just leave the lid on and let it cook pretty much the rest of the day. So at this point, the soup has been cooking for probably about 6 hours, and this is what it looks like. Let's stir it up and see how it looks. We've got it all stirred up now, and it's definitely starting to be more of a soup-like consistency, but it still has a little bit more time that it needs to cook. So the lid's back on and we're going to let it keep cooking. It's been cooking for about 8 hours now, So first I'm going to get the cream cheese out of the fridge and I'm going to break it into little pieces and put it into the soup. We're going to let those cream cheese pieces melt there for a second, and then we're going to stir them in. This ham is already fully cooked, but I got it out of the fridge and realized that it hasn't completely thawed out, and I need to be able to break it apart into the chunks. So I'm going to pop it in the microwave for a few minutes to defrost it. So now we've got our ham chunks all thawed out, and so we're going to dump them into the soup. And then we'll stir them in because they're already fully cooked, as I mentioned before. So they don't have to cook, they just need to be heated. So we're going to stir them in, and then we'll cover it back up and let it cook for another hour or two. So we've got the meat and the cream cheese all stirred in. We're going to put the lid back on and let it cook for another probably hour, 2 hours. I don't know, just until I feel like it's done. At this point, it's been about 10 hours. And we're going to lift the lid and give it a little stir and see if it's ready to eat. Gosh, guys, this looks perfect and it smells delicious. I cannot wait to eat it. Ham and potato soup.